Hello, team? Hello?
Hello?
We're back. It's Eye on the Storm. We're here. We're alive. My computer is streaming, you guys. It's a miracle.
It's a momentous occasion.
I know. Oh my gosh. So welcome. This is Eye on the Storm. In case you don't know what you're watching, that must be a really awesome empty world that you live in, that you just stumbled upon a show like ours. But we're glad you're here. It is a talk show about Heroes of the Storm. We talk about the game itself. We'll try to teach you a little bit about it. We also talk about what's going on in the community. We bring on guests each week to talk to us about how they are involved in the Heroes of the Storm community.
Yeah, and we have a Q&A throughout too, so if you want to talk to either myself, Gillyweed, or my co-host Anna, or even our guest who we will introduce very soon, you can type in chat. We'll try to be watching that, but you can also talk... Oh my god!
The overlay says I'm Gillyweed, so it's lucky I'm wearing a shirt.
Dang it!
Hello,
For
I'm
heaven's
Gillyweed.
You would think...
I can't believe you're wearing that shirt.
Oh my gosh. You would think that by this point in my long streaming history, I would stop making these mistakes. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Although getting to see that shirt was quite exciting. So.
It's the highlight of my day right there. Thank you, friend, for wearing that shirt. We're also on Misclicks. This is a community dedicated to uplifting females in the geek and gaming scene. We have lots of different shows that are hosted by females, so definitely check those out, including D&D that I hear that is coming back soon.
Oh, I'm so excited. Our flagship show was Misclicks D&D Pirate Edition, and we've been doing D&D for like 2 years now, and we just kind of took this really long hiatus to really think about what made our show great and kind of bring it back with a vengeance, because a lot of our fans give us feedback that they weren't as engaged as they once were, and we're going back to our roots. We're going to be seaborne this time, not pirates. We're not going to play the same characters. We're not going to be in the same world, but we are going back on the sea, and I'm very excited. I really want to reveal my character because it's crazy, but you have to watch on Tuesday to find out what that is.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, don't forget to check out Misclicks on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube if you want to be able to check out this show or that show too, or many other ones. And then you can always contact us using the hashtag StormShow for this show directly, and if you want to ask us questions. And with that, let's introduce our guest. We have the manager of Tempo Storm, one of the 2 North American teams going to BlizzCon for Heroes of the Storm. His name is Zoia. Hi, Zoia. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah.
You are welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to chat with you.
Me too. And we also have a shirt. Is that right?
We sure do. Let me see if OBS will allow me to show you. Ba-ba! Look at its glory and majesty. This is the Eye on the Storm official Teespring t-shirt. You can buy it by just looking right down below our faces. There's a panel there that sells this shirt. And we're hoping that you might want to buy it and wear it at BlizzCon. Or if you're not going to be at BlizzCon, that you might want to wear it and tweet us pictures of it so we can give you big thumbs up and be happy. And it comes in all these awesome colors. I think I'm personally going to buy it in maybe some gray. I really like the gray. A lot of people going for that bright blue. So we have sold 12. Our goal is 20. If you guys get to our goal by the end of this show, I will sing and or dance for you by the end of the show. I don't know what, but
we all will.
Yeah, all of us.
All 3.
Zoia. Yes, all of us will. So yeah, please do think about purchasing one of those, telling your friends, all of that great stuff. But all that sellout aside, let's talk about Zoia. Zoia, can you introduce maybe just kind of your background, how you came to be involved in Heroes of the Storm? Did you like esports? Where'd you come from?
I have originally come from StarCraft. I was semi-part of the Brood War community. I used to play on iCup, and then I just watched a bunch of the competitive scene back then. And when StarCraft 2 came out, I used to just kind of try and compete. Wasn't very good, but I started making YouTube videos trying to teach my friends how to play the game, and that started getting myself a following, which led to me casting StarCraft. And through StarCraft, I met Frodan, who's grown to be one of my closest friends, and that eventually just led to eventually I just ended up swapping to Heroes just because I love all Blizzard games, and whenever you have a game that has all Blizzard characters in it, and I was at the time enjoying MOBAs too, so I eventually swapped to Heroes, and um, I was casting Heroes, doing a podcast, and Tempo Storm, which Frodan is operations manager of, wanted to pick up a Heroes team. He didn't know anyone in the Heroes scene, so he by default like went to me as kind of like the Tempo Storm liaison to like try and pick up a team and get them going. And we signed Symbiote Gaming, or Tempo signed Symbiote Gaming rather, and they did not like their current manager, and they couldn't find one. And Frodan didn't trust anyone else. So he's like, "Hey, can you give this manager thing a shot?" I said, "Sure," and here I am.
And it's almost been a year now, right?
Yes, it's
Pretty
about,
close.
I think we're about 10 months in. Yeah.
And you also, I mean, most people I think here will probably know of Town Hall Heroes, but if you guys haven't, Zoya is one of the hosts of that too, which is every Wednesday evening. And it's our sister podcast. That's what we call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about some of the duties involved with managing a team, because I think that's a lot of, I don't know, like it's a lot of the behind the scenes work that people don't really realize needs to be done in order for teams to be able to even just practice or be prepped for going to events. So, in working with the Heroes team, what are your duties as the team manager for Tempo Storm?
Just like on the surface details would be like I schedule practice. We do have this team house, so a lot of these kids are really young, and it's their first time out of the house. So I have to help manage their lives as well. Sometimes they just don't wake up for practice. Sometimes they just don't wake up at all. They're not eating healthy. Um, so I help them with those things. We have to communicate with sponsors whenever we have to, make tweets about certain products. So I communicate with that with the team. They also have obligations in their contracts, such as streaming hours, creating content. I have to make sure I stay on top of them for that. Um, it's not too much outside of that from like the day to day life. It's a little bit different at LAN events, but for just day to day, it's making sure they don't die.
And that is more challenging than it seems with pro
Yes.
gamers.
Yeah.
What
You've
is
been there
that
before,
like?
right? And it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell, give a little bit of insight into, people assume that you're doing the things they would normally associate with pro gamer scheduling practice, all of that other stuff, but like, what are some of the things people might not know that you have to do to take care of them?
It's much more than just like that stuff. It's essentially house therapists, team therapists. Whenever there's issues within the team, they have no one to go to but me. So you have to whenever one of them's frustrated or upset, they're having a bad day, I have to help them through that. Um, I do a bit more. I help with the actual practice, making sure that they are studying other teams, making sure that they are focused in their scrims, making sure they're not just showing up and like doing silly like murky games all day. They're actually
Mm-hmm.
taking it serious and treating it as a job is the most important thing. And it's a bunch of kids who are just out of high school and they've never had a job, and to them it's still playing a video game. But this is now their job, right? They're living in a house that's paid for them, and they're on salary, and they're competing with the world's best, and they have to treat it at times. So you guys always knock them on the head and be like, "Hey, this is serious time."
Speaking of living in that house, you live in the team house with the team and have been since the house picked up in Arizona, I believe.
Yes.
Arizona team houses.
Yeah, that's right. That's where you live. So what is that like? Because there are lots of teams that do have managers, but not all of them actually live with their teams.
It's great and terrible all at once. The like it doesn't matter how well of a friend you can be with someone online. When you live with someone, everything can change like instantly. So you don't understand like the little habits before you move in, like having to deal with like people who aren't clean, or people who just are very loud in the mornings and not respectful of that. So you go into that and you have to deal with that initially. But those negatives are heavily outweighed by the benefits. None of the team has to have a job, right? They don't have to be working part-time at Target down the street or anything. They get to focus entirely on the game, and then they're always talking about the game. Anytime we go out to get food, anytime we go to the movies, anytime we're just sitting downstairs having a bowl of cereal, we're always talking heroes. There's never a situation where we're not, and that's where a lot of like the crazy strategies we come up with. That's where like these little tendencies we notice in play get fleshed out. It's not in the practice, but it's in life outside of practice that a lot of the fine tuning gets done.
I was just gonna say, I guess that would be where a lot of like relationships are made between the team members too, is being able to spend time with each other, doing things outside of playing the game together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Getting there are of course the bumpy parts, but it's whenever you are just hanging out with KO and you're just sitting there on the TV watching Netflix or something. It's you get to talk about heroes while getting them know your friend even better. Your mic's muted, Anna, apparently on stream.
Gosh dang it. Okay, I'm back. So to repeat what I was saying, there seems to kind of be two schools of thought in terms of what a pro house should be for pro gamers. Whether it should be a place that's just totally zen, everything's taken care of for the pros. Someone cooks and cleans for them. All they have to do is think about the game. Every other life concern is taken care of. Or there are more like the Korean style houses, which it's like this is like a boot camp. You clean and you take care of. I mean, I guess Korean isn't necessarily the great example because they also do cook and clean for you, but more of the boot camp, like you're responsible. This is a privilege. This is a job. That kind of stuff. And I think it's a really interesting thing to think about in terms of, like you said, this being the only job a lot of pro gamers have ever had. And so depending on what kind of experience they have in the team house, it either prepares them or leaves them not prepared for real life outside of pro gaming. So I'm interested to hear what kind of environment you like to maintain for your team in the team house.
Unfortunately, we fall someplace in the middle. I personally prefer the Korean boot camp style. I think that's the best way to do it. It's just, I guess our culture has a different mindset growing up, and it's a little bit different. I think that would be the best way. Ideally, I would prefer a house. I would prefer not having a team house, but having a bunch of apartments or something in the same area, and then you have an office you go to and work every day. I think that would be the best for our culture personally, because it's very hard for people to disconnect business and home life. But we find a nice middle ground. We do have a maid that comes once a month, but we don't have a cook. Everyone kind of has to take care of their own things. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and we have to like complain and stuff. But it's somewhere in the middle. I personally think that it should be like the Korean way. I don't think you should have. It also depends on the team. Who the players are. Some people need the extra pampering, right? They have to have the super. We're gonna do your laundry for you. We're gonna cook your food. I don't know if I'm the right manager for that. It's a little too much diva for me, but there are teams that need that. There are teams that need that, but I prefer the other way, where it's this is your life, and you need to be doing everything you can to make sure you succeed. So I would prefer the other way, but we fall someplace in the middle.
I totally agree for what it's worth. I think it's a really important note what you said about that it would be better in North American culture to have an office or a training facility and then a living facility, because I think the separation between work and home life is really tough for us to maintain to begin with, and then for gamers it's even harder because you're doing what you love to do as your job at the same time, and I think that can get really distracting and really fatiguing. So I don't know. I would say if you're out there and you're a team manager and you're listening and you're thinking about your team house, listen to Zoia, because I think he's right.
Just listen to Zoia for a lot of things.
Yeah. By the way, this is Zoia, this picture here that looks nothing like, that has no beard on it, no scruff on it. You're looking pretty clean shaven in this photo on your website here.
That's an older picture. That's the Gigabyte Esports line. I think that was in like 2012. The one picture I have where I don't look homeless. So we had to throw that one up.
Yeah, well, it looks nice. And I mean, now we've come so far that you're taking your team to BlizzCon. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's the environment like in the house as the team preps for BlizzCon?
It's very intense almost. Everyone is studying really hard, and it's not just play. We are analyzing every region as hard as we can. That's where a lot of our time is spent. Almost more time than what we practice, to be honest. We are watching the games from Korea, we're watching the games from China, we're watching the games from Europe. We're looking at everything we can. And then we're also watching our own play more intensely than we've watched it before. We are looking to find what tendencies people have, and that we see back-to-back games where Dreadnought's missing globes in lane, or KO's missing skill shots. We're hyper focusing on those things to just fine tune as much as we can. When you go through that kind of, like, when you go for that intensive of analyzing your own play, it doesn't tend to have a long term effect. You have to work on those things over time. But when you hyper focus and you're like constantly driving in, KO, you need to do this, KO, you need to do this, Arthlon, you need to do this, it can have really good short term impacts. And we're trying to make sure that at BlizzCon we play better than we've ever played. So we're kind of changing how we practice and focusing only on BlizzCon. We're not focusing on anything past it. It's just making sure we do as well as we can there.
And you guys are leaving pretty soon for opening week for that too. So at events, you talked about how a lot of your duties change. So what are the things that you're responsible for as a team manager when you're at events?
So I feel more of like a coach/manager role. So a lot of the time I'll be on stage, making sure the players have everything they need. I'm talking to them in between sets, making sure I give clearly after game number 2, Soldier's tilted. I do everything I can to calm his head, clear his mind. It becomes much more of a babysitter role at events too. You really have to make sure the players are 100% with their mindset, and if they need anything, you get it for them, whether it's like coffee, whether it's they need a water bottle, whether it's they just need a moment to get away, and whenever they just need an hour to break, like you make sure they get it. And it's also making sure they know when they have to be up. Like you have to really micromanage them at these events. As before, it's like we have a calendar. Make sure you know when you're up, and if you're not, Zoia will be banging on your door 5 minutes later. But here, it's at events, it's much more micromanagement focus and really babysitting the team.
Anna, I remember events where you would host and you would have your players there too, like StarCraft events. Lone Star Clash is the one that's coming to mind when you would have Stefano there too. Did you kind of have to do the same thing where you'd be hosting and then also trying to help your players out at the same time?
There was a little of that. Luckily, I think I was never the only manager for our team when I was also supposed to be hosting. But there was an element of it's hard to explain, because I think sometimes players get the reputation of being divas at events, but I think it's really important to recognize how much energy and focus it takes to perform, whether you're competing or whether even you're like a caster or an onstage talent. The reason that there's all this hospitality around talent is not because they're the most important people there. It's because they have to be, their energy has to be so high all day that they need everybody else to give them their energy, if that makes sense. So it was I don't think that I ever had to really split my attention as much as maybe you were thinking, but there was an element of anytime I would see a player, it was how are you doing? Can I get you anything? Let me tell you how great you're doing, and give you a pat on the back, and anything you need. Do you want me to call someone for it? Just because the mental capacity and the emotional capacity you have to have in an event is so high. So I don't know if that answers your question, Gilly. But.
Yeah. Well, because Zoia also has been observing at a lot of the events too. And you've casted events too. WCA, you were casting, and then Tempo was there too. So what is that like for you? How busy do you get?
It's intense. Luckily, Dreadnought is probably the greatest captain anyone could ever have. He steps up. I wouldn't be able to do this job without him. Even in the home life, he carries the team. Honestly. So he does a lot at these events. When he knows I can't be there, he'll if he has to rally the team, if he has to make sure Arthlon has his keyboard, he is the one that steps up. Luckily, BlizzCon is actually the first Heroes land that I will not be working. I will be there solely as Tempo Storm's manager. Like you said, every other event I have been observing or casting. So I get to actually just focus on managing, which is cool. But it's tough, especially when every job I've had has always been like full time on. You can't, as an observer or caster, you rarely get breaks. You can't help the team between games and stuff. But luckily, Dreadnought steps up, and this event, I don't have that stress. I just get to focus on the team, which is perfect because it's BlizzCon, right? This is a team where we need everyone at 150%.
That must be rough. I mean, because like I said, it's not just players who need energy. It's everyone who's working the event. So that must have been tough for you energy-wise to be giving as much energy as you could to your team and then also working yourself for the event.
Yeah, but that's esports, right? You're doing 100 things at a time.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned Dreadnought. I was just looking at your website as I was putting that up. I always forget how young he is. He's 21, right?
He's 22.
22. Okay, so yeah, I mean, he seems so much older and more capable. He really must be kind of a natural leader, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. Dreadnought is just born to lead, and he does that with this roster perfectly. Yeah, that's the thing I hear a lot is I can't believe he's so young because he's very mature, he's very level-headed, and he's exactly what Tempo needs.
Am I remembering correctly, Gilly, that the first time we had him on the show, it was from his dorm room? Do you remember that? I feel, was he recently in school, Zoya? Am I making that up?
Pre-Tempo, yes.
Okay.
Did we have him on when he was in Symbiote before Tempo?
I think so, yeah. I think we did.
If he was from his dorm, he would have been Symbiote. Yeah.
I think so.
Because I think I remember him saying he was deciding between whether he was going to finish up school or whether he was going to take the opportunity to go ahead and do Heroes. And that's the only thing that now I'm like, oh yeah, he is that young.
Now I want to go back and look. I'm going to have to go back and look after this. That'd be crazy. Yeah. Knowing like what we know now and how they've qualified for BlizzCon.
It was a good choice.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to ask you mainly about team management is I know you do more for Tempo Storm than just like working with the Heroes team. So what are some of the other duties that you do that people may not know? Because you work your butt off and I want people to know it.
So I do a lot of the website management, especially specifically for the Heroes section. We recently just brought on like 6 new writers and about to bring on a 7th. So we have articles being released every single day, which is managing writers is also another very difficult thing. We also have the YouTube channel, which again is more managing of the players, making sure they're producing content, as well as watching stream VODs, finding good clips from that could potentially go up. I've also recently been tasked with more stuff at Tempo. I've started talking to potential sponsors for the team. I am managing more teams coming up. We are signing. We just signed. It hasn't been announced yet, but a hype announcement. We got an Overwatch team about to be announced.
You heard it here first. Exclusive.
That was really cool because. Like I said, I didn't say this, but I never wanted to be in management. I've always just wanted to be a caster, but it just kind of fell into the role because Frodo needed it. But with the Overwatch team, Reynad was like, I need you to do this, and I don't have time to help. So literally the signing of the Overwatch team, scouting potential teams from other games, that was all me. That was the first time I've done anything like that. So that's a really cool thing to we're on the verge of announcing them. So it's really cool to see that I was able to do this, and now we've got I deal with contracts now. It's a whole crazy amount of things that I do at Tempo now. That originally it was just I was the manager and coach of the Heroes team, and now a lot of stuff happens.
Well, I must be very happy with your work if they've given you 7 things to work on at once.
I think Reynad just doesn't want to hire more staff. But I'm okay with it. It's fun. It's tough. It's a lot of work, but it's what needs to be done in the current state of esports. You have to be versatile. You have to be able to do a lot of things, unless you're the top of whatever you're doing. Unless you're the 0.01%, you need to be able to just kind of do the shotgun effect and kind of do a million things.
Well, I'm curious. That brings up a couple questions for me, if you don't mind, Gilly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because a lot of people will kind of message me and ask, how do I get into esports?
That's exactly what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So good
and you're talking about how you're managing contracts right now, and you did scouting, and these are all things that you never had thought you were going to do. So a lot of people ask me, how do I prepare to do these things? Or once I'm there, how do I learn? What did you do? Did you just Google how to do this thing? Or did you reach out to people you knew in the space? Or what's your strategy for learning how to do esports?
It's mainly just watching other people, and see what they do. When it comes to like contract specific stuff, like you just have to Google it. Luckily, well, not luckily, but Frodan and Reynat are both super busy, so I don't like have them to just be like, hey, hold my hand through signing, 6 players to a contract. It's like, oh, let's figure this out myself. So it's just a lot of like watching what other people do and finding what habits like they do that you find right, and you just implement what you think is better. And it's a lot of trial and error. Like, there's a lot of failures and there's a lot of things that just go wrong. But you just gotta keep on doing it. Like, the best thing to do is just do it. I know that's the cliche answer everyone says is like just like start doing it. But half the people that like I have like working for Tempo now are people that just annoyed the hell out of me. Like, just, hey, I want to do something. I want to do something. I want to do something. Like, okay, fine. I finally have something for you to do.
Yeah.
So just a perfect example is that D the Hunter guy. He's just like always like, hey, what can I do for Tempo? What can I do for Cloud9? I'm always looking for stuff, and it's like maybe eventually he just started like doing his own thing, and now like every event he's got these awesome spreadsheets where you can see the stats from the tournaments, and those are super helpful.
They are. And
now I think he's like potentially making like a website for it and stuff, like just from the idea of like what could I help Tempo with today. Now he's doing a lot. So it's just like getting an idea and kind of running with it, I guess.
Being proactive.
Yeah.
Are there like entry version things that you know of? Like, I know a lot of people are like, I want to get into esports, so I'll start writing articles for sites. Are there like other things like that you might suggest, just having seen people kind of come up in esports?
I don't think so. I don't think you should just like start doing stuff. You should do what you want to do. You should just, if there's something specific, if you want to be a caster, if you want to be a host, if you want to be an analyst, a coach, whatever, just like aim for that and do what you can around it. Because like, if you just I don't know if you should just like do stuff,
do a random thing just for
like,
being an esports.
If I were to try and be a writer, like no.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because you mentioned that you wanted to be a caster. So did you just change your mind along the way? Or do you still just want to, you're like, screw this, I'm going to be a caster eventually?
Yeah, it's still that. It's still eventually I will be a caster. It's just now I've got a way to pay the bills while like still trying to become a caster.
Totally.
The goal for me is still caster at the top, but it's I think if you want to like have inspiration for like who you want to be in esports, honestly, I think Frodan is like the best person in the world. The guy works for Twitch, he works for Tempo Storm, he casts, he produces streams, he literally does a million things, and then he's like the caster for Hearthstone. So he's still doing what he wants while helping communities grow, while like helping Tempo Storm do their thing. That's who I model what I want to do off of. Is he does a lot of stuff while doing the thing he wants, which I think is important for this industry.
Definitely. It's nice too, because for wanting to cast, you're at least still like as your job involved in it, so you can say, oh, I'm watching this, and that helps keep your knowledge relevant, but at the same time you're watching it for your team too. A lot of people are like working on casting around their jobs that have like nothing to do potentially with esports, like some other random jobs. So it is at least nice that you get kind of that crossover from there. And we're casting HTC this weekend, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty fun, and hopefully more stuff in the future. It's cool. It's Tempo's giving me the opportunity to like focus on casting still while like being involved in esports. But it's tough to get to that point. Everyone in esports that's like self-sustainable now has been doing it for like 5-6 years at this point. It's not something that you just like sprout into and suddenly full-time job. Like see Steve, who just got hired by Blizzard. He was a tournament admin for League of Legends and doing his thing there for years before he came to Heroes and blessed our scene with his work before he finally got hired full-time. It's tough.
And there's always that trade-off too. Like you said, I think most of us who are in esports that want to do things like be casters or those kinds of things, like we have to find ways to pay the bills and go different directions from what we originally thought, and figure out how to balance it all together if we can, and let one thing go and keep one thing. So it's definitely not something that's like, poof, you have the exact job you wanted. You know?
That's the tough part right there. Is of that, like there's situations where like just for example, me observing the Road to BlizzCon stuff, that I wanted to cast, right, but I didn't have that option, and I had to observe. And there are times where the event's like, well, you can't cast this because you're Tempo's manager, you live with them. Isn't there like bias there? It's like, no, I'm not biased when I cast. But they're just like, well, it'd be weird, so it's like there's situations you're into where it's like, well, because of you're doing so many things, you can't do this, but you just got to keep striving for it.
The last thing, I know Zoia is so interesting. We're going very deep into talking about Zoia. We have lots of other things to talk about with the game, but one last thing that I wanted to ask, in kind of talking about doing the jobs you don't want to do alongside the jobs you do want to do, you mentioned that you're making sure that your players make consistent content. And that's something that was one of my focuses as well when I was a manager, and I encountered a lot of players who either would put up a huge fight about making media content, or didn't know how or couldn't make good media content. And I'm curious your opinion on whether a pro gamer's job is just to play the game, period, and that's it, or whether you would advise aspiring pro gamers to make sure they're really good at media as well, because that's a really important part of being a pro gamer.
If your dream is esports, or just like what you're doing, like if you wanted to be doing this for the rest of your life, then yeah, you need to have like content as your number one goal, almost over playing, I'd say, because that's the only, like, no one's a pro gamer forever. Like recently, one of the longest pro gamers of all time, Dyrus, just like retired from League, and that guy's been doing it for like 5 years now. And now, like, what is he gonna do if he like doesn't have a backup plan? Luckily, he's been streaming and producing content, has a huge fan base now. But if he wasn't in that position, what would you do? There's a lot of players who drop out of school and they're like, I want to do esports. Well, you need to make sure you have a long-term plan. You're not going to be playing forever. But there are players who are just like, you know what? Esports isn't my goal. I am going to pursue this for a few years. It'll be fun. And then go back to school. One of the storylines of Stefano was he wanted to compete and then go back to school. And that's fine. Personally, I think though, if you are a player, you have to be able to do both if you want to sustain yourself past it. Like once you're not successful as a player, if you don't have a backup plan, you're gonna fail. Tempo Storm's a bit of a different team. We are very content focused. Our website and producing content is part of the team's salary, more important than their results. And they were at one point the best team for like 4 months, just winning everything, and then in the SMG time, they won everything. And them producing content is more important to us than them winning everything. So for us specifically, content has to be made for their sake and, of course, the team's.
That's an important insight that a lot of people don't know about pro gaming teams, is that's where you make your money, is media and impressions. I mean, it doesn't matter as much whether your team wins the tournament as whether enough eyes were on your team and your sponsors are happy with like how cool they looked, Yeah.
It's that's exactly it. It's more difficult unless the game, because here's still not that point where it doesn't matter. Like if you're like it's the viewership's not great enough yet to where it doesn't matter if you're number one or not. You have no, sponsors don't care enough about it yet. But when you're the number one team, and also like you have one of the best, like Dreadnought's stream, for instance, he's like one of the highest viewed pro gamers in Heroes of the Storm right now. People look at that and they're like, oh, he's Tempest Storm Dreadnought, they win almost everything, and then he's got a great stream. That is appealing to sponsors, is when you have the content there. But results right now, whenever you look at Tempo Storm's results, like half of it's like, oh, they want to go for $50. No, a sponsor doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
But when Dreadnought's consistently streaming, to 1,000 people, like 60 hours a month, that's what sponsors are looking at right now.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that I rabbit trailed so much. I think your insight's really interesting and valuable. And now we have a game to talk about. We have Heroes of the Storm to talk about. And we want to start out by talking a little bit about Tassadar, right, Gilly?
Yeah, so we're going to be showcasing a build from Zoya during the play session after this. But we wanted to talk a little bit about Tassadar because he's had a huge increase in popularity from the last patch. So, where do you think it came from? Is it like the way the meta shifted, or is it more his changes specifically, or a little bit of both?
It's 100% his changes specifically. The reduced cooldown on shield um, is just insane, as well as it got more value from it. Um, Before, it was an 8-second cooldown with like that's very punishing. If you shield the wrong target, you cannot save someone for a very long time, and then you have a shield being wasted on someone that's not taking damage. But in this situation, when it's 5 seconds, you can shield more frequently. You can with the duration of it. It lasts 5 seconds, 5 second cooldown. You can just float shield on whoever you think's going to be attacked before the fight even started. Before you couldn't do that. It was you have to wait for damage to come in and then you shield. But now you can just kind of throw your shields out. And with Conjurer's Pursuit mixed in, like mid game to late game, you don't ever go You can just spam shields. You're literally spamming a shield every 5 seconds, and that is with the increased protection from it is insane.
Yeah, he has more protection on it when it's cast on someone else.
Yeah.
Too. So I like too. A lot of people will have the shield talent. I think it's Kala's Embrace, where then it doesn't expire, and so you'll see like just a team full of shielded people running around, which is pretty funny to see too.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's really fun to play now. He's like they nerfed his damage, so he's not too much of an assassin anymore. But it's cool to see how just one small tweak like that made him actually a support. Like he's not a pseudo support anymore. He's actually feels like a support.
What kind of compositions does that mean he's good in? Is he playing in a lot of the similar compositions we would have seen him in before, or is there kind of a change in who he combos really well with?
He doesn't fit too well in the double warrior. Tassador's damage is pretty weak right now. And with double warrior already lacking damage, so filling that third role with a potential damage role with Tassadar, it doesn't fit there, but it fits in basically every other comp. I think he's really god tier in triple range comps. Just your problem with triple range comps was it's so easy to get to the backline and blow them up, and now with Tassadar being able to keep everyone alive, that it helps out a lot. And he also works into other like the Illidan type comps, the Kerrigan type comps, the hyper aggressive melee assassin comps. He fits in those well too.
There was an article about a pretty funny bug with Tass that we wanted to just show. Him one-shotting a core, basically. You have to kind of work up to it, but it was pretty funny. Not that that's the reason why, by the way, he's popular. His changes have made him really good, but I'm sure Blizzard are working away at being able or fixing that, but we wanted to show that too because it was pretty funny. We thought you guys would like that.
They actually said in this article that they're actually already working on fixing it, but until then, if you're lucky enough to get this bug, you can apparently one-shot everything with Tassadar.
Yeah, you watch him in this video, one-shot the core. Like, shields in 100% to 0, like, instantly. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's actually on Kotaku.com. I'll go ahead and put the link in chat in case you guys want to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. So Tassadar, has been seeing a little bit of an upswing here, and I think we'll probably be seeing quite a bit of him at BlizzCon. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. In Korea right now, he's first pick, first ban. Like, he doesn't even get through drafts. Like, him and Sonya both, they're ridiculously high priority there. Like, Uther's getting played now, guys. It's crazy. Like,
it's so weird. And Zeratul, too, even. Yeah. It's a huge ban before. So yeah, Zoia will be playing Tassadar during the play session. We'll have a build for you for that too. A couple of other things. Something that made me super happy is Dustin Browder tweeted about the medic and said the win rate is a little low. Balance team is thinking about a small health buff.
That's always good on a hero you like to know they're going to get more health.
I know, right? It's like I play her all the time already. I'm pretty pumped about that. But I wanted to know, Zoia, how much, and I don't know how much you can talk about it, but like if Tempo has really been liking and prioritizing using the medic, and if you think that there is any applicability in playing her as she is, or if she does need a buff.
She has a place. It's just a very small place. She's very squishy, very easy to blow up. She works into very specific compositions, and she's last picked. but she's not, she's not Uther tier, she's not Malfurion tier where you see her picked before, mid tier bans. She is, what you would expect like a Stitches to be picked as, very like a Chen, the last pick when they can't react to it.
I'm hoping that I know I love her so much. I'm hoping that they change, like if they're gonna bring a buff to her, because she is the last hero before BlizzCon. Artanis will be released, but Dustin Browder's already confirmed, which I put in the link after that Artanis won't be in or allowed in the competition for BlizzCon. So she is the last one. So I'm really hoping that we'll get to see her. But I think that would definitely mean to see her a lot, or at least more than kind of the niche thing that you say, maybe 1 or 2 games. Then we'd need to see that fix come in before then. I don't know if that's if that's likely to happen.
Do you think if we got the health fix before BlizzCon, that would change enough?
Maybe. It's tough with her.
Yeah.
Like, she's got really cool mechanics. Like, a lot of the mechanics she got like introduced with her in this game is really cool to think about long term, like what those mechanical implications can affect the game long term on other heroes. Because her kit is very interesting and unique, but it's her that's the problem. She's very weak. She has no escape. With Uther, he's very tanky. With Rhaegar, you can mount up. With Malfurion, you have a crowd control to get away. The grenade doesn't really fill that role. It's a knockback, but not really. You can't really do anything with it. And she has no like dash, vault to get away. So it's if she can become tankier, but how it's a very scary line. Like how tanky do you make her? And the main issue I think is her not being able to heal herself. If you look at the positioning of supports, like it's across the board, even across like the best, pretty weak overall. If you like watch a game of Dreadnought, even take the idea of him being able to heal himself away on any healer, it doesn't matter, like even Uther the tankiest, and he's dead like every fight. Like, just supports would have to learn to play her completely differently than any other support, just from the idea of not being able to heal yourself.
Yeah, she plays very far, like you play far back, you are very susceptible to dive, like Illidan, or not that we see a lot of Novas, but like a Nova is always really scary for me when I'm playing as medic. And then the, like you have to be very vocal with your team. And even when we played her on Brawl with the Blues last week, Glaurung was talking about how when he plays Illidan with the medic, it's a completely different play style for him. It's very much like, I will go out. When I go out, I'm fine. When I come in, that's when I need you to be focusing on healing me. It's very much like you've got like this like constant line of communication between like, okay, I can't come any further. You need to come back to me to get a heal. Like, you need to come back. And I even find myself saying stuff like that when I'm playing Morale. It's just in like quick match. So I can't even imagine with a much more like a team who's much more organized and better at focusing, what that would be like for a pro support player.
Yeah, she's difficult. Yeah, like Glaurung definitely explained it best. You have to learn to play around medic. The medic doesn't play around you, which is part of the weakness of her. Any time there's a hero where you have to build around it, like Stitches, for example, it's very hard for that hero to thrive unless they're clearly broken. There was a time where Stitches had a lot of, like, he had insane damage, he was tanky, and then, of course, his hook. And clearly broken at the time, he got a lot of play. But once you take away a lot of what makes him super strong, and you have to build a comp around him, that's when it's tougher to pull that off. We do see it happen, with Dignitas from Europe. They do make Stitches work pre-patch, but it was very rarely.
Well, to talk a little bit about what you hinted at, Gilly, with Artanis. Artanis is coming in. He won't be at BlizzCon, but let's talk a little bit about kind of tempo storms and your general thoughts about Artanis. And I'm going to play a little video. This is from Curse. Again, I'll put the link in chat, but this will show Artanis abilities in case you haven't checked those out yet. But Zoia, what do you and your team think of Artanis overall?
He looks lots of fun. Global ults are always cool. Just the ability to be like global at all, like Brightwing and Falstad. Those are the most fun heroes to play. And if you compare it to other MOBAs like League of Legends, some of the champions that any champion that has a global ultimate in that game is insanely good. So it's cool that both of his heroics, I believe, are global. There's
Yeah,
a
both of them.
fun things that you can see them doing. Silo recently told me about a strat where Silo from Cognitive, by the way, he told me a strat where you go the Abathur mines and you get the increased slow, and if you get someone hit with two mines, you can insta give them 100% of the time with the the Purifier one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like fun little stuff like that, where it's just like just general map awareness and synergy with your team, being able to pull those kind of things off. He definitely looks fun. None of us got a chance to play him though. I know Gilly got to play him. Very unfair, but I think his.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, all you.
I'm curious because I haven't gotten to play him either, and I think the Phase Prism looks so. That's what it's called, right? Phase Prism, yeah.
Is that his E?
The one where he can change, he'll grab and change places with somebody.
That one is fun!
Yeah, it looks so much fun. I feel like it's a huge, different thing. Something we've never seen.
Yeah, it's a skill shot, and it's a short skill shot. Like, it's pretty short. But the cool thing is that it doesn't hit minions. So you can totally flip them so that they're in the middle of your minions, and then obviously, like, blocked, and then you would have, like, all of your teammates around. So you can do some really crazy stuff with that. His Q is definitely the strangest because it's like a boomerang kind of where you go out and deal damage and then you come back and deal damage. I was trying really hard to like go out and then throw out my E, which is the Phase Prism, and then like switch places, but I couldn't get that to work. I think you have to go back. It was
you can't like that. That's the number one complaint I've seen. You cannot cast spells mid Q.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's saying. Like, he would feel much better if you could, like, Q, then spell, and then, like, you still have, like, time to get the second Q off. That would make him feel, like, much more smooth. I think he looks fun, though. I don't know how competitively viable he'll be. Any time you have an ability that, like, swaps places with someone, like, you can make plays.
Yeah.
You know Glaurung's going to have a lot of fun with that hero.
Yeah. And he is more of a bruisery type than like a full-on warrior. He's actually fairly weak too, though you can build into making him stronger, just like with the bruisers. One of my favorite Ana talents, and I think you're going to get a kick out of this because he's Artanis and he is, Zealot. The cool thing is at 16, he basically gets Zealot charge, which is the gap closer.
Why is that?
What?
Why is that cool?
Because
charge lots were the worst thing in the world.
Because it's StarCraft. It is StarCraft, and it's like an upgrade that you get for him that like charges it. When you use your W, which is like it does extra damage, I think. Then you like charge, so it's just like a gap closer, which is like the issue. It's an issue for Zealots, and it's kind of an issue for him too, as you can kind of get kited. So I think that's really cool. Is it has the fantasy of charge lots actually in there. It's just neat. Even though apparently Zoya does not like charge lots at all.
Well, as an overall philosophy, the reason I like the way talents work in Heroes of the Storm is because it reminds me of upgrades in StarCraft. So you're totally on with me liking that. And
is that not awesome?
Yeah, I'm totally into it. And I'm also, because of my playstyle, really into his trait, Shield Overload. Because it's like
anything that keeps you from dying when you go ham.
It's like the ham catcher. It's like, oops, hey, you shouldn't be standing there anymore. I'll give you 2 seconds to rethink your actions. you know? Oh.
That's true. You're going to like him. He is really fun.
I think so.
He feels kind of Tyrael-esque, which makes me happy too. Because, I love Tyrael. It's just like he's very mobility focused. He's rather swishy. So you really, you want to be moving around a lot and knowing when to go in and when to back out.
So he's just shaking his head. Just no. No.
What?
She likes the worst warrior. So.
No, Korea likes Tyrael, so therefore awesome. So the reason we're talking about Artanis, guys, is if you've pre-ordered Legacy of the Void, you get him on Tuesday. Otherwise, he's available to everyone the following Tuesday. So it's a little bit of a bonus for pre-ordering.
Does the game come out Tuesday too?
No, I don't think Legacy of the Void comes out until right after BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it does not. Yeah,
so
but
I was like, I get to play the campaign before I leave for BlizzCon. Cool. Nope.
No.
Dang.
Yeah. I want to ask you, even though Artanis won't be available for competitors to play at BlizzCon, how long does tempo usually take to get used to a new hero and start incorporating that hero into your comps pretty seamlessly?
It depends. If they're clearly very strong, like Leoric, almost overnight.
Okay.
It just depends though. What tournaments are coming up? Like a lot of tournaments have different rules. Sometimes it's a 1 week ban on a new hero. Sometimes it's a 2 week ban. So usually we play for the tournaments. So if we know for 2 weeks we can't play Artanis, Soldier will only play him like when he's streaming, but we'll never scrim him. And we don't. You never like that's the kind of scary thing about heroes. Is you can't tell a hero's strength from like Hero League. You just can't. It doesn't matter how good they could feel there. You have to play them in scrims. And until we start doing that, which is whenever he's playable in tournaments, or a few days before he's playable in tournaments, we don't touch him.
That's crazy though that it's only a day or two before you'd like be willing to play them in tournaments, because I would assume you want to see every little aspect of weakness and everything. But I guess it makes sense that if he's really, really strong, then you want to take advantage before the other teams figure it out too.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways it works. It's a style of play that Murloc Geniuses has, where they jump on anything new, and they will be the first to master it every single time. No one beats them to mastering something new, and finding out all of its weaknesses and strengths. It's not our style. We're just more of like we play what we're comfortable with, and we make it work. Even if it's not the meta, even if it's the weaker meta, we're very stubborn with how we play, unfortunately. But it just depends. Like, if as long as like Soldier's playing, or like whoever it is, like with Dreadnought with Morales or whatever, as long as they're playing it on their own time, they're mechanically ready to play the hero. It's just figuring out how strategically to play him and who to draft with them, which you can kind of get a sense from, but you can't really know until you scrim.
Well, speaking of scrimming, we're gonna bring back our
own scrim.
Gaming Team Gaming versus Evil Team Evil, as we've come to call them. Our two teams. We're gonna have a custom play session. We are going to have Zoia playing Tassadar and talking about the build he's using in just a few minutes. And I guess we probably want to give you a little reminder before then too, right, Gilly?
We do. Just a reminder, we have a shirt that you can buy, and you can model at BlizzCon. We'd love it if we could see it, or you can even get one and tweet it to us and show your support that way. It's really cool. Eye on the Storm shirt. We'll probably remind you again before the end today.
And look, no one... Well, wait. Let's refresh just to make sure. Nope. Nobody has bought a shirt during the show, so you were pretty far from getting me to sing and dance for you.
If you want that song and dance routine via Rock Band, perhaps. Jump on that. I linked the Tassadar build in chat, so I think we're ready to go, though, so we'll take a short break, and when we return, custom game with some community members.
Yes. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.